Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. Today I will be running through the most recent monthly report for the PU. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you so much for the support, and if you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. So I do apologise, this report is a little bit late, mostly due to CitizenCon and being away from the PC, but as usual, get yourself settled in, grab a drink or some food, and relax, as it's going to be a long one. Also, there is only a handful of hours remaining to take advantage of the TOBII Tracker 5 15% off sale, but do not worry if you didn't manage to pick one up this time round, as there will be many more sales happening throughout the year, of which I will be sure to let you know about. And using the link in the description below will take you to that deal, while also providing my channel with a direct kickback. So a massive thank you to everyone who has used it so far, and if you have recently acquired a TOBII tracker, whether you've used my link or not, feel free to come over to twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother, where I can help you get it set up. Now, kicking off with the AI content teams, both AI and narrative designers continued their work in the Pyro system, setting up the spawn data and markup for the various outposts and space stations, and this involved cooperation with the level design team to ensure that NPCs were spawning correctly, and following discussions with the mission team, they spent time marking up locations in Stanton too. So a lot of AI stuff going on, and hopefully server meshing can help keep the AI performing consistently, which even without server meshing in the persistent universe right now, the AI are doing much better than they used to, so it is looking good. Now, they also implemented dynamic conversations to make the universe bars feel more organic and alive, and this tech and approach will be expanded to other landing zone locations and included in any future captured content. Now, this is great to hear, bringing locations to life with more professional audio and conversation tech. Right now, much of the voices found around locations in the verse are just placeholders captured by the various developers working on the feature. They are not professional voice actors, and certainly not utilizing this dynamic conversation tech. But I can just imagine with proper voice acting and this dynamic conversation tech, it should feel much more real and natural, and hopefully one day we will even be able to actually speak to an NPC using our own voice and VoIP and have them respond accurately, as that is something CIG have said they want. Now, next we have the AI features team. They focused on locking down existing human combat features, including first reactions, ammo management, and tactics, and as we approach the release of Alpha 4.0, they want to ensure that they work consistently across a wide variety of situations and environments. The AI tech team was focused on server meshing, including how AI systems and components synchronize during server transitions. Also, performance improvements were made alongside progress on features that will be unveiled shortly. Anyway, following on from last month's report, AI Tech finished their tasks for the movement system component synchronization and began synchronizing the subsumption component that updates AI behavior. And on the performance side, further improvements were made to vision, observable, and perception components. For example, they adjusted update frequency based on AI character level of details, so closer entities are more responsive. And this we kind of got to see at CitizenCon this year, showing off how an NPC will search for players using different covers, but also the day-night cycle having an impact on that. Now, they also implemented lighter AI zone handling for observables, which will deliver significant improvements when zone queries are made by NPCs. And finally, for the AI tech team, they updated AI ship reinforcement functionality, adding support for planetary navigation cost volumes and navigation exclusions. So happy to hear about this, as I have never seen the NPCs or the reinforcement NPCs at settlements deploy from the Cutlass properly. Never seen it. Hopefully this will improve on that and just make it work. Now, next we have the AI game intelligence development team. They spent the month working towards the release of StarScript 1.0, with the main goal being to improve how the tool feels to use. The animation team worked on the Argo Atlas alongside additional work on the Copian dogs and other creatures, and we did get to see a little snippet of some creatures coming in the future for 1.0. Quite a lot of them, in fact, but they were just concept art. But the Argo Atlas is now in-game and available to buy. Now, next we have the character art team, who progressed with the utility and specialist armors new heads for the character customizer, and tasks for the IAE event, all while the character concept art team continued exploring new fauna. And one of my favourite things about CitizenCon was looking at the new armors that are coming to the verse and how they are more unique to certain roles with a lot of different stats. Really enjoyed that panel, especially the way that they presented the team going out to capture a sandworm. That was very clever. Now, for the ship art team, the vehicle content team moved several vehicles into their final phases, including the RSI Polaris and several unannounced ships as well. Plus, they prepared to kick off another series of ships. Now, we know of a lot of ships that were announced at CitizenCon. There's probably going to be a lot more, maybe more than what we saw at CitizenCon announced at the IAE this year, coming next month in November. It is going to be difficult keeping that wallet closed, but it is great to see a lot of them now tailoring more to industry. Now, for the core gameplay pillar, they supported the Atlas, which they say has unique tractor beam behavior that they will expand moving forward. And as the game's first exosuit, it requires a special technical setup, as it's neither a traditional vehicle nor a character, and this posed some minor challenges. And as it states, it is the first exosuit. Do expect to see many more for all areas of the game, from mining, salvaging, and of course, combat too. Now, for charge and drain, the team worked with design to decide whether the client-side prediction works as expected and meets expectations. And from this, they improved how connections between the multi-tool and resource containers are handled, ensuring they correctly deal with edge cases and multiple targets. Plus, mission support continued as well, including state changes based on resource container occupancy. Now, this charge and drain tech we have seen pretty recently and opens up a lot of gameplay opportunities, from localized non-combat missions to problem solving on our ships and planetside locations when it comes to the resource network. Plus, many more use cases I'm sure will come along in the future too. Now, biome accumulation progressed as well, with improved support for wetness visualization and iteration, including a new debug tool for degradation. So biome accumulation, or bioaccumulation, refers to all items in a location taking on the environment over a certain duration of time, be that getting covered in sand or snow, or aging if it's left out for a period of time. It will also tie into other systems like item wear and can cause issues if items are not looked after. Plus, as we've seen in terms of wetness, now that they are looking at weather and rain, items in the environment like rocks, trees, leaves, and anything really, if it rains, it's going to look wet. Now, further work on jump points continued, including improved tunnel wall forces and the failure behavior. And as mentioned on Inside Star Citizen, the closer to the tunnel walls you get, the more your ship will suffer distortion damage, and you could eventually fail, spitting you out into the middle of nowhere. They also expanded various designer-controlled values to better control how the jump point opening and traversal sequences triggered, along with improved visuals at the tunnel exit. Now, gameplay-wise, jump points now use quantum fuel in the tunnel, and fuel requirement is per jump, although each drive has an efficiency multiplier, and now the IFCA takes time to come back online after a jump. So a lot of changes there. Plus, improvements were made to the camera and screen effects code, while various stability, flow blockers, and performance issues were dealt with jump points currently in QA for testing. Now, this is going to be monumental when we can finally travel through a jump point properly. I know many others have done it technically, but probably not with all the bells and whistles like visual effects and audio, although in the most recent 4.0 tests, it is definitely going to be closer to their sort of final vision for it. But I think it will bring a tear to my eye when I finally jump through a jump point for myself. Now, it says numerous bugs were fixed for the resource network in engineering, including some relating to deleted entities not being removed correctly from the resource list. The devs also solved issues where items with minimum power requirements were not correctly assigned power as part of the default presets, and fixed items with incorrect components being added to the resource networks, which could result in later crashes. Also, work began on item box out bindings, so when clicking on items, a 3D panel will open with its details. The team also improved the item destruction and repair behavior, and when implemented, when a player destroys an item, it will be removed from the network and added back in if it's repaired, which makes sense. Plus, player set values for on, off, and throttle will persist through death and repair, which is nice. They also implemented off alerts for weapons, coolers, radars, thrusters, and quantum drives, alongside misfire alerts for power plants, weapons, thrusters, and shields. So a hell of a lot going on there for the resource network, and a lot of things to consider and set up. Ultimately, engineering is coming, and it is going to be so involving and allow those who really want to delve into it and learn the system thoroughly to do so, but also easy enough on a surface level and simple enough for those who don't want to. You don't have to worry about it. You can get into it as much as you want or as little as you want. And as we have heard with being able to have presets, you could always have someone else giving you their preset so that you don't even have to touch it. Now, progress continued on radar and scanning, including the Delta signatures. These are signatures given off by doing certain things like pinging or swapping between flight modes. Progress includes a temporary AR marker that will show when detecting a Delta signature, and if the contact is pinned or locked, the existing AR marker updates temporarily, plus new bindings were added to enable the designers to customize the player-facing UI. And related to that, the radar jammer will now prevent scan waves, while FPS radar and scanning went through various rounds of playtesting and reviews to improve the overall experience. So we have seen quite a lot of work going on over the last few months, or even years really, for radars, scanners, the signature system, both in vehicles and FPS, and it is going to allow for a lot of other gameplay systems to expand or release, from combat, salvage, mining, exploration, and bounty hunting. This system is so important and will really help to push the potential gameplay going forwards. Now, it says continuous release support was provided for transit, with improved debugging tools, a fallback for when teleporting out of transit fails, improvements to how transit data is stored in object containers, and a refactored transit network visualizer. Now, these transit systems have been a huge headache for Cloud Imperium and for the backers since day one. I do hope, with all of this work and the refactor going on for server meshing, it can finally become solid and stable. Now, moving on to the Maelstrom system, the devs provided support for the triggering of particle effects alongside adding support for cinematic sequences and marking parts as critical. And when a critical part reaches zero integrity, the whole object will be disabled or destroyed, and in the future, this will tie into the resource network. Would be great to see a lot more of the Maelstrom system and where it's going to be utilized, how it's going to be utilized in those areas as well, and what it means for us, the players. Now, the mission system refactor mentioned in previous reports continued, and now missions can be played through to completion using the full mission service implementation, while medical and rescue service beacons are functional using the new system. And we did see for 1.0 their plans to, I think it was 1.0, but their plans to get a whole beacon system flowing properly. It looks great and we need it so desperately, but it was nice to see that the work is going on there. And beacons will apply to everything from hauling, mining, gathering various resources or different commodities, even NPCs putting out beacons as well, not just player beacons, but rescuing NPCs or transporting NPCs. There is a lot to this, and it will provide never-ending content. Talking of beacons, for contract prerequisites, the team added the option to set locality availability, such as a landing zone, a moon, settlements, or distribution centers, and design can now generate multiple contracts with different overrides. The team also spent considerable time improving and fixing various cargo gameplay issues, like hangar performance, server crash recovery bugs, commodity trading, and sell orders. And finally, they are currently assessing how the development and delivery of 324's cargo features went, including quality of life improvements that they'd like to implement before taking the next step. Now, as we have seen, 324's rollout has been pretty problematic with freight elevators, persistent instanced hangars, and everything that goes along with it. It is definitely causing them a bit of a brain ache, but we have also seen them putting out multiple hotfixes throughout the week since its release, and it is not going to stop until they're done. Now, moving on to the economy team, they continued their ongoing work on Pyro and began implementing some of the balance changes mentioned in previous reports. The economy team are definitely doing a great job in just making things in-game make sense from a fiscal standpoint. Great to see a little more balance in the cost and sell prices, but there is still likely a lot more to go. For the locations team, they continued to push towards Alpha 4.0, polishing and optimizing content and supporting the design team in making Pyro as distinct as possible. For the mission design team, they continued working on location repair missions, moving some of them into a Handyman archetype. I like the sound of that. It certainly seems to suit my playstyle. There sounds like there's going to be so many kind of odd job types that they can create for all manner of locations, being a handyman, and I really look forward to those. The team also reviewed the Blockade Runner Global event, looking at future tweaks and fixing issues. Further tweaks to cargo hauling missions were made as well, including the possibility of removing negative reputation hits for abandoning the mission while keeping punishments for failing. And I think they should just do that outright or straight away, especially while there are so many bugs causing missions to need abandoning. So once they've resolved those issues, by all means switch that reputation negative hit back on again, but not while it's out of our hands. Now, the work on the mission system refactor continued, which it says now includes over 1,700 mission records for Stanton alone, which is a pretty good amount, and with this new mission system, I bet that can even increase drastically very quickly. Part of the refactor is streamlining content setup so that the devs don't have to manage that number of records going forwards, and this refactor won't change how players interact with missions or change the gameplay as such. It's predominantly a back-end refactor to ensure everything works with server meshing. But we have seen in 3.2.4, well, the cargo hauling missions, there are hundreds if not thousands of those missions. And there's a lot of system refactors going on right now to enable all this stuff to work in a meshed environment, like social and transit systems. So hopefully we're not waiting too long until all that's done. Now finally, for the mission design team, work began on an improved new player experience that accommodates more fundamental game mechanics like teaching players more about item banks, freight elevators, the respawn flow, component repair gameplay, master modes, and more. Now, the funny thing is, while it's an alpha, they're going to have to keep doing these kind of new player experience updates just to help onboard new players, because that's a good thing. But as we have heard with 1.0, when it goes to 1.0, like a final sort of finished release, they're going to introduce a narratively driven storyline that players can follow along and be introduced to all the different gameplay types. So what we have here with this new player experience can certainly help with 1.0, but is probably more of a temporary thing or a temporary solution until they get to the full-on story-driven mode. Now next up, we have Narrative, who continued their support for 4.0's upcoming missions, saying they also provided text for a really exciting upcoming mission. No idea what that is. It could have been the Monster Hunter one, but I don't think they explained. Plus, Narrative also supported characters for Pyro's NPCs to ensure the various groups feel narratively consistent and appropriate for the location. For the online tech team, they spent the month working on features for 4.0, including the updated mission and marker system, as well as tasks for Part 2 of the backend social service refactor, which replaces some older diffusion services with gRPC services and adds quality of life updates. And the second half of the month involved design work for new services as well. The Live Tools team kicked off a new feature to provide better access management to Hex based on the various user permissions, and ongoing work involves enabling the ability to display inventories in the Network Operations Center. And talking of the network, the networking team prepared to bring server meshing to the persistent universe, with the team saying, "This included a new series of tests on the Tech Preview channel where we're pushing our player counts higher than ever to stress the system and rapidly iterating with performance improvements and bug fixing. And it has been very exciting watching this whole thing unfold." Finally, the team also supported the various gameplay teams, helping to get their features server meshing ready and improved the robustness of authority transfers between servers. Now next up we have the UI team, who focused on multiple screens for the Pyro system, while continuing close collaboration with the core gameplay pillar on jump points and the resource network. The team also reworked each manufacturer's vehicle HUDs and MFDs, giving them unique colours and a new layout to reduce screen clutter and improved usability. And they do look much better. They can still be improved in a few areas, which I'm sure they will get to, but they are much better than what we had. And as of right now, we have manufacturers including Drake, Anvil, Aegis, Argo, and a sort of generic one which will probably wind up being someone like RSI, but the other manufacturers' displays will come later. They've just rolled out these kind of 5 so far. And finally, for the UI team, they streamlined the multi-tool UI to be more straightforward without the need for floating elements, which in 3.24.2, which is the last one I played, it does look much nicer and a lot more informative. Now finally, we have the visual effects team who worked on jump points and supported vehicles, weapons, and location teams with a variety of deliverables, including the Argo Atlas and the beautiful RSI Zeus Mark II. But there you go, that is the most recent monthly report. We are almost at the cusp of a new one, finally got this one done. Lots of great stuff going on there. And as I say, if you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. Also, come and hang out over at twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother. You are more than welcome over there, whether you are new to the game or a veteran. It is a great place to hang out with citizens, chatting about what we have now, what's coming in the near future, what's coming in the long term. I look forward to seeing you all there. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members. Cannot do it without you guys, so thank you for the support, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.